What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla vs. Kong Playmates unboxing. Today we are going to be reviewing Playmates WARBAT. Now, I remember back a long time ago, some of you may remember this, a Playmates catalog got leaked. We saw Godzilla with the heat ray, we saw one of their Kongs. Actually, based on the face sculpt, it's like the Arctic Kong, but without the snow. We saw the Skull Crawler, however, he was painted like the Kong Skull Island ones. He wasn't red, so that's our first indication that things are off. And then, of course, we saw Nozuki. Nozuki was the leaked WARBAT, and he actually had yellow wings in the leak. I don't know what I like more. I like the red wings, but the yellow's kind of cool. Either way, that's neither here nor there because, of course, we didn't get that. We wound up getting the WARBAT figure release, and that, of course, is red. Just like in the movie. Actually, not just like in the movie. This is a little more orange than he was in the movie, but you still get the point. That's right. Today we're going to be checking out WARBAT. If you're wondering what is up with this name difference, one of them being called Nozuki, the other being called WARBAT, what is that? I believe the original intent was to call them Nozuki. That was the original intent. And then Playmates decided that the name should be WARBAT because that would sell better. Because they're not named in the movie. I believe they're named in the concept art book as WARBAT, but they weren't named in the movie. So that's obviously an external thing where that name comes from. So within the mythology of the movie, I believe the original idea was that they were going to be Nozuki, because it's more of like a kaiju name. It makes more sense. He's not a bat, he's a snake. If anything, he could be called War Snake, but he's not. He's called WARBAT. I don't get it. I did a bad thing, guys. Before I take this out, I have to make a confession. I've done a bad thing, and I'm sorry. I really am. I bought this guy when he very first came out, which was like, I think over a year ago. I think a lot over a year ago. It was well over a year ago when I bought this. And I thought I unboxed it and reviewed it for you guys. And then me being me, I saw another one at the store and was like, oh yeah, well there's two in the movie. I kind of want to complete the collection properly. Why wouldn't I grab two? Just cuz. So I grabbed a second. Which I proceeded to unbox and display, and then I realized only after the fact, how come he's the only one in this display? Where's the other one? Here it is. Haven't reviewed it yet. So I'll review it now. I am noticing, oh wait, I take it back. I was gonna say, I'm noticing an interesting distinction between the two. This one's bottom jaw closes up so it touches his top jaw, and then you can of course open it. The other one in the box, for some reason I wasn't able to get that jaw to close until I put some real force into it, and then it snapped shut. Quickly covering the box, it is the standard Playmates Godzilla vs. Kong packaging with the orange banner and the city behind him. On the back, you've got a picture of the WARBAT himself standing up in front of this city, and then you've got a little Osprey accessory. Here shows the battle damage reveal, as does here on the front. On the side, of course, we have just this logo, and then, of course, the Godzilla vs. Kong logo. On the back, you also have a lineup of other Playmates releases, including that fabled Kong with fighter jet. The description for the WARBAT with Osprey, I'll talk about that in a second because it shouldn't come with an Osprey, is as follows. Powerful enough to tear through armored vehicles with its massive fangs, the WARBAT are venomous winged monsters that hunt the hidden depths of the hollow earth. They sure do have jaws that can tear through steel, the steel of a heave. Why would this not come with a heave? They already made a heave model that they have packaged with Kong figures. Wouldn't it seem like logical to make a heave for the WARBAT, considering the WARBAT destroys a heave in the movie? That's what I would do. The WARBAT also being a hollow earth creature and the heave being the hollow earth vehicle seems pretty obvious to me. Let's open this guy and check him out. Unlike with normal, I've already opened him once before, so I kind of have my opinions formulated, which will make this review interesting because normally I have to think about it and kind of say stuff on the fly. This one I've had a little bit of time to sit with and be like, what do I like about it? What do I not like about it? And I've had time to come up with that. And after a bit of an epic struggle, the WARBAT is freed. There he is. That's how he comes in the package, so he comes without the wings attached, in a snake form. He's already in his upright position. This is how he sits. This one has a little bit of stronger pose than my other one. I wonder if it's just because he's had time to sink because the wings have weighed down on him, but my other one really likes to slouch. Like, I don't know if you could really tell with me holding them. This one is significantly taller than this one. The original one I got really slouches and has a really hard time standing up on his own. bone. I think it does have to do with the wings over time weighing down on it and pulling him down, so I think after time this guy's gonna bend down as well, which is unfortunate. There they are together. The two Warbats of Destruction. Not really noticing any quality control issues between the two. This is the first time I can ever do a direct comparison too. I mean, generally speaking, they're the exact same. There's some minor things on this guy that are not on this guy. Same can be said about this guy that are not on this guy, such as like a little dimple on his cheek where the plastic is kind of peeled up. And then this guy has where his joints attach. It's a little bit more noticeable than on this one. This one's a little bit more well put together. This is how it comes. This is how it ends. That's how they are. Which means the wings, like I said, they do come separately. This is, of course, the battle damaged piece, so I'll show that off first. Here is an up close of the wing with the battle damage. The one thing that I do like about the battle damage is that you still have the patterning for the bone structure running through the battle damage. It makes it feel a little less like a red piece of plastic and more like the actual flesh. But as you can see, there are those clips there where the other piece hooks in so the other piece doesn't fall out. So this hooks into place and it creates that noticeable gap. So you see those gaps and then you'll see them on the back. Even when I put the pieces together, you'll still see them where it hooks in place. Looks really distractingly bad. Also, it's not even that seamless of a fix because you look at it on the front, you can obviously tell where the battle damage is, as with all the Playmates guys. Now with the wings themselves, you'll notice they are wildly different sized. I wish they were more consistent because it causes this really lopsided look to the Warbat. They're the same size in the movie, and I get that it's because they're folded different, but they are wildly different size, and it weighs on him differently. Going over the texturing on the back of the wing is pretty nice. You can see that there are the runs and the grooves through the back of the wing that give this texture pattern, as well as the bone that sticks through. The bone, of course, creates the shape on the outside as well. Flipping it over, I like that they're painted different, so you've got the gray bones. I think that's what they would be called, right? Maybe not. Maybe they're not bones, but they're like the bone structure, the thing holding the structure of the wings up. You've basically got the bones, and then in between you've got the fleshy orange membrane. Like I said, during the movie it is actually a little more red than orange, and that's because it is orange, but it's a transparent orange, and whenever light shines through it, it appears red. That's how it works in the movie, and I think that's what makes it look so cool, because it's almost like the Warbat itself is glowing. Obviously, they didn't really capture that with these orange pieces. I don't know how they really could, other than to just paint them red, but then you'd have other people that aren't like me complaining, well, they're actually supposed to be orange, just when the light shines through, they'd be red. So maybe it's a bit of a lose-lose situation. But yes, this is how the wing pieces come. Of course, they do have these obvious hinges where they hook into place on the actual Warbat body. They don't stay very well, though. They like to fall off. It's really annoying. We'll talk about that a bit more when we get to this guy. Before we do, let's talk about the Osprey. Much like with the Osprey we talked about last time with Kong, it's pretty untextured. I like the sculpt of it. Like, I like the shape of it. But they didn't really add many details to it. The rotors can't spin, they can't go into plane mode, nothing like that. At least you can like force it like that, but it won't hold its position. I don't love the Osprey model that they have, but I really don't get why they wouldn't have just made it a heave. Like I said, Playmates has done a heave. You could have just sold a heave in there. I don't know why you wouldn't have. Ospreys are the vehicles of the MonsterVerse. I get it. Everybody's got an Osprey. Ever since 2017's Skull Island, The Birth of Kong, the Osprey has basically become the official vehicle of the MonsterVerse, which is all good and fine, but the heave was the thing that the Warbat interacted with. You'd think that they'd give it a heave. These pieces click together really easy just like that, just so you know. I would say that there is concern if a child is playing with these for them to lose the wing pieces, because like I said, they very easily pop off. It's actually hard to get them to stay sometimes. You can't really do much with them. Also, like I said, it's weird how imbalanced they are. They're both different size, so you can see here, it looks all right when it's sitting like this. But imagine you're trying to, I don't know, play with it like it's a toy, like you're meant to play with it. First of all, when you flap the wings are gonna fall off. But also, when you're flapping the wings, it's like the imbalance in size is really awkward. Folding them back also creates this kind of awkward look. They really don't look good unless they're flapped perfectly down like this. And that's the thing with this figure. This figure looks good if he is like this, exactly how he comes out of the box with the wings attached. He doesn't look good once you start to move him about. And that's really unfortunate. It's hard to talk about the sculpt on this guy because it really is just a snake. There's not a lot of detailing going on. I do like the position fresh out of the box. I love the way that the tail's all coiled up. I love the way that it wraps around in a circle. I think that's really neat. It looks really awesome looking up and like coiling through the inside of him. It just becomes really limited after a certain point, and you can't do much with it. I wish you could pose him. I wish he wasn't just like this. I think that a much better way to go about this would have maybe been to just do a big body that's a bendy wire. It is a snake toy after all. I don't really know. I feel like this one's, like I said, kind of a lose-lose situation, because if you do a bendy wire, I could see it being a really cheap, kind of cheesy toy. But doing it the way they did it, the articulation, the way the body is posed, you don't have a lot of range to do much with him. You can basically move how the bottom sits, but he can't really stand easily unless he's in his out-of-the-box position. He likes to tilt and fall over. This piece on the end of the tail too, it's like you put it down and now you're creating these awkward gaps that look really bad. As you can see here, once you start to move him about, these gaps start to appear and they look really gross. They look dumb. And I just wish there was a better way they could have gone about this so that when you twist him, you don't see that. Also, there are these texture patterns on his body, and if they're not lined up properly, you will notice. It will be noticeable that they're not lined up properly. It's especially noticeable on this final tail piece because the bottom of the body is completely flat for him to sit on. That's how they want you to sit him. And if you turn it, well, now it's no longer flat, which means half of his body's got a flat piece on it and some text on it. I think it's a really, really limited sculpt. But I like the frills. I think the frills look really cool running up the body. They look awesome. The face looks awesome. I really love the face. He really truly does capture the likeness of a snake, especially when his mouth is closed. He really does capture the likeness of a snake. These nice yellow eyes are pretty awesome. I mean, the Warbat's eyes are actually much more green than yellow, but it's whatever. As far as accuracy to the movie, the Warbat itself is a little more textured. There's a lot more going on in the back. He's got a double ridge running down the back with the spine coming out. On the front, you see a much more well-defined chest pattern. Throughout the tail, you've got a lot more well-defined muscles as well. They do an okay job at adding texture to the body because otherwise it would just be a real smooth little guy. And at least they didn't do that. They added some texturing, so he is textured. He's not textured quite how he is in the movie, but he is textured. And then as far as paint goes, he's just mostly brown. It's got a whole brown body with no highlights, no shadowing. You've got these orange pieces, the orange frills that look really great. They do look really cool. I love them. And then you've got the wing pieces that have these nice colors in them. So at least the wings have the bone pieces that add the color. As far as the face goes, he's got these really nice fangs, the white teeth, that looks really good. They pop really well. Like I said, the beady yellow eyes, and then a little hinge on the inside of his mouth that's pink, kind of like his tongue. That's at least all right because the Warbat themselves have the really, really vibrant mouths. It's the fleshy color on the inside of their mouth. They have that big fleshy membrane that hinges their jaws together. You don't really capture that likeness on this guy, although I love how wide you can extend his jaw. And that about does it for paint. So it's not a very elaborate paint job. The sculpt is really limited, specifically when it comes to the articulation. It's like, not that you could do much with articulation. It could go one of two ways. You could either have tons of articulation, like it's an SH Monster Arts tail, or you could do what they did, which is very limited. Again, I think a bendy wire might have helped because you could do more with it. I don't know. I think this is a really hard figure to make. I feel bad for them that they were locked into this position. I don't feel bad that the Warbat exists. It's so awesome in the movie. It's my favorite new monster of the MonsterVerse, I think. I really love them. Maybe I like Scylla more because Scylla's pretty awesome. Oh, you know what? The Mutos are my favorite. But okay, now I'm on a whole side tangent. It's one of my top 5 favorites of the MonsterVerse. I love the Warbats. I think they're really cool. I just think it sucks for Playmates to be a toy developer to be like, all right, well now we have to make a snake. It's a really hard one to make. So as far as articulation goes, you've got 1 for the bottom of the tail, 2 for what we're calling the midsection of the tail, 3 for the jaw. Gosh darn wing. 4 for this wing and 5 for this wing. So 5 joints of articulation in total. At least you can do generally a lot with them. Like if you wanted to, you can at least twist them into these like different positions so he looks different, put the wings back or something. I don't know why you would, because again, he doesn't look good when he's not in his base position, and he won't hold this stance. Seems like generally the only stance this toy wants to hold is the stance it came out of the box in. But if you're playing with it, you can coil it up and do a lot of stuff with it. Also, I will say, one thing that is nice about it is that the plastic isn't too hard, so you can at least like flex it and move it and scrunch it and bend it how you want. It just won't hold your bends. So if I wanted to, I could uncoil it. Now, I don't want to push it too hard because it might break or it might lose its original sculpt, which means it won't be able to stand very well. Point is, if you're playing with it, you can at least do stuff with it as a kid, or a kid would be able to do stuff with this. I do think that you run the risk of losing pieces because these fall off super easily. I definitely think if I was a kid, this guy would be put into the big toy bag that I would transport around, and then when I get him out of the toy bag, these would be gone, and then I would either find them or they would be lost for so long that they would never find their way back to him. Definitely seems like what would have happened if it were me, or I would have just been playing with him somewhere and they would have fallen off and I'd lost them. So I do feel bad. I don't know. I think it's kind of unfair to judge this figure's sculpt because I really don't know what else they could have done with it. Usually if I'm gonna judge something, I would have a solution or a counterpoint. You should do this with it. And just saying do a bendy wire, like I said, I don't think that's a really good solution. At least they gave him an interesting look. He does look really awesome when he's on a shelf. I absolutely love seeing this guy amongst all my other Godzilla vs. Kong toys. So at the very least, they did that pretty well. Maybe I'm being overly fair to this guy. Like maybe some people don't like this toy. They want me to be harsher, or maybe some people love this thing. Maybe they're like, this is the greatest Godzilla vs. Kong toy Playmates made. It's the most different, and at least they did the Warbats. And maybe you're upset that I'm being too harsh on it. I don't know. But here's the two of them. I can definitely see, at least in person, that this guy is flexed down a lot more than this guy. This guy holds his stance much better. Side by side, one is taller than the other. You can definitely see that, and their butts are touching, so you can see. I'm not exaggerating his height. They really are like that. And if I had to guess, I would guess it's because the wings will eventually weigh this guy down and flex the original body so that he's no longer able to stand on his own very well. Because now this guy needs support to stand. I'll lean him up against the King Kong. Speaking of King Kong, let's get on to some Kongparisons here. I like that I have two of them. They're cool. I wish I could find like a cool way to pose them so that they were like wrapped into each other. I guess I'll hold them like this. Maybe this is going to make the comparison a little hard now that they're like that. I should do one at a time. Let's just really quickly start off with the heave that they're supposed to be able to snap out of the sky with their jaws. You see how big that would be? I mean, at least he can fit his whole jaw around it. Maybe that's why they made his jaw open so wide. Of course, he's an easy toy to do that with. I love that they added that mouth hinge, by the way. I'm very glad they did that. But he's an easy toy to do that with, so I can let go and he's going to hold on to that. He's really biting into that thing. I'll get the other one, the Osprey, to bite onto. So maybe that's why they had the jaw open so wide. I just don't get why. Why would they not add the heave to the set with the Warbat? That makes the most sense to me. And then, of course, here's Kong. If he had the axe, I think he would have made, like, incredibly quick work of the Warbats. He already makes quick work of them. He wipes them out and moves on in like a minute. And I love the sleeping bag kill where Kong grabs the one and swings it into the other to kill it. That is confirmed to be a sneaky Jason X Easter egg, and I was the only person to catch it. That's probably my proudest moment as a breakdown guy ever. People give me a lot of crap for how much I stretch in my trailer breakdowns and how like I connect dots that are absolutely not supposed to be meant to be connected. Sometimes it pays off, fellas. Here's Kong versus his two enemies. I think if he had the axe, it'd be a quick double decapitation and then you'd move on, or he'd have good dinner. But there they are together, the two of them. You can actually see the Warbat toys are actually a little taller than Kong, if I'm not mistaken, or about the same size anyways. They look a little more physically imposing than he does, to be honest, which is good. I mean, I kind of like that because they kind of are in the movie too. I mean, their size alone, they're pretty huge. So there they are together, Kong and the Warbat standing next to each other. You can wrap him around Kong, and then you've got this situation going on. Not much, because again, you can't really do much with the articulation. And then the Warbat against the enemy. He was lucky enough never to face Godzilla, the two of them standing off. I don't think that'd go very well for a Warbat. Maybe it'd go great because you can wrap around the back and siphon out the energy. I don't know. I don't know what their powers are. Seems to me like they're just big snakes, not bats. Don't get the name. There you go. I'm gonna blow his head off. I think that's everything I have to say about the Warbats. Overall, I like them. I don't love them. I don't know what else you could do with them, which is why I'm going to be pretty fair with my review. I'm going to give the Warbats, they're $10. That's it. They're $10. Well, they should be $10. Don't spend much more than $10, guys. Don't spend anything more than $20. You're throwing your money away. If you're a collector, I could see why you'd go $20, but they're like $10 toys. I don't know why you would spend too much more else. So for the Warbats, I'm trying to be fair. I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10 because, again, I don't know what else you could have done with them. It seems like a very hard toy to tackle for me. I don't know how else I would do it. This is what I would do, I think. If I was put in the position where I was presented this sculpt, I'd be like, cool, approve it. It looks good. It's going to look good on a shelf anyways, either selling toys or displaying them. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty all right. I wish that there was a way we could get a better version of this, but I don't know how you'd make a better version of it. All right, and that'll do it for this one, guys. If you want to support the channel, please check out the Patreon using the link in the description below. It goes a really long way towards supporting the channel and making sure I can keep making videos like this for you guys. If you join the Patreon, you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more, which is great. And I've let you off easy lately. I haven't asked. But the channel's dying, fellas. You need to subscribe and like, or else there will be consequences. So do as I say, all right? Thanks. We don't like consequences around here. All right, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man, out.